Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be going over my March wrap-up. I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read during the month of March, what I thought about them, what I rated them, and whether or not I would recommend them. So in March I read 7 books in total, 5 physical books, and 2 ebooks. So 5 physical books, 2 ebooks. And I'm going to tell you what I think about them right now. So, let's start with the ebooks just because it's easier. So the first ebook I read in the month of March was The Ghosts of the Past. This was by Rachel Morningvale and Julien Mcbain. Julien Mcbain is the pseudonym for my brother, and I really wanted to really support him on his book, and I have been wanting to read it for a while, so I was very excited that I was able to read that. It is about Eric Vallerand and his wife, and it is a sci-fi novel, in case you didn't know. So the Earth has basically been destroyed, and so everyone is living out in the galactic universe now, and so there's something going on with one of the stations, the Jupiter station. It has been attacked, they believe, because all of the communication systems have been shut down. So basically Eric and his wife go to find out what exactly is going on Jupiter station, and his sister, Jacqueline Vallerand, which is actually the name of our sister. She is in charge of Jupiter Station, and they're all trying to find out what happened. That's all I'm gonna give because I don't want to spoil it. His book is not in print, so if you do want to read it, you do have to go to his website. I will make sure I have that linked down below in case you want to read it. I really, really liked this book. This was the first sci-fi novel I have ever read. I was never much of a sci-fi person, but apparently I am now. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really good. I thought the plot line was really good. I thought that the book was not very one-dimensional at all. Each character had a lot of depth to them, and there's some things that I wish were answered, but when talking to my brother, he did say that he plans on making this a series, so hopefully we can get some answers to some of the things that were brought up in this book in future books. It was just a really, really, really good book, and yeah. Yeah, it was just so good. A little disappointed by the ending because it was such a cliffhanger, but like I said, he did say that another book is coming, so I cannot wait for that to be out so I can read it. Anywho, the second ebook I read in the month of March is 1984 by George Orwell. This is about a dystopian universe where basically Big Brother has taken over, and everyone, you're not allowed to think, basically. You're not allowed to think against what Big Brother wants you to think, and basically if you start to, there are the things called the thought police will arrest you, and you will kind of just disappear forever, whether you're murdered or you commit suicide or what have you. And there's a lot of things in the world that are not allowed, like love is not allowed in a way. Like it's kind of hard to explain. You just kind of have to read it in order to get it. When I was telling people I was reading 1984, a lot of people said they didn't like it, that they found it was very boring, but I loved it. Oh my goodness. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. The ending was fantastic. Like, I loved the way that George Orwell ended this book. Again, I'm not going to give any spoilers, although I really want to, but I love the way that the main character just progressed through the book, and how he went from like this lowly guy that worked for the government to wanting to overthrow the government and blah 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 blah. And it was just a really good book. If you have already read it and you read it in school and that's why you think it's boring, I highly recommend you read it again in your spare time, just because I know that all of us, when we read something in school, it's like, I don't want to read something that my teachers make me read. Like, I'm going to think it's boring AF. And because we have that mindset, we think it is actually boring. But it was so good. I highly, highly recommend it. The next book I read in March was 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott with Mike Daughtry and Tobias Iaconis. This is a YA book that has been turned into a movie. Actually, if I remember correctly, it was the movie first, and then they wrote the book off of the screenplay. And let me tell you, this book was good. I gave it, what did I want to say I gave it 4 stars. It is about 2 teenagers, Will and Stella, they both have cystic fibrosis. If you don't know what cystic fibrosis is, it is basically where your lungs... No, not your lungs. Your body produces too much mucus and it starts collecting in your lungs. So you have to go through a lot of different treatments and stuff to make sure that you're basically not drowning in your own mucus like your body wants you to. Stella is on the top of the transplant list for a new set of lungs, and she has to go back into the hospital for another set of treatments because she had come down with the flu and she can't seem to overcome it. And because of that, her lungs start filling up and she has to go back in, and she's at 35% lung capacity. Will, on the other hand, and Stella is very much the person who follows the rules and makes sure she takes her treatments right on time and her medicines right on time and all of that. Will, on the other hand, so Will also has cystic fibrosis, but he also has something called Pistachio, which basically means you're resistant to antibiotics, which means he went from the top of the donation to the transplant list to not being on the transplant list at all, because after you get a transplant you have to be on a ton of different antibiotics, and with the fact that he is resistant to antibiotics, it's just never going to happen for him. So basically Will is going to eventually die because of his cystic fibrosis. So Will has been through many different hospitals in many different countries and states because his mom keeps finding new trial studies for Pistachio and is hoping that one of them will work and he'll be able to get new lungs. Now, because he is under the age of 18, he has absolutely no say in this, but while he's at the hospital, he's not doing his treatments, he's not doing anything, he's fighting the nurses, so on and so forth. So, Stella hates this. And so she decides she's going to start helping him, and he takes his house, and basically they fall in love. It is kind of one of those insta-romance stories that I know a ton of people hate, but like I said before, I really like corny love stories, and I don't want to say it was a corny love story, but it was kind of corny, only for the sole fact that it was the insta-love, but still a really, really good book. I would highly recommend it. I think the characters' dynamics and all of the different things about the characters was really good, and it made this book very 3-dimensional. And I would highly recommend this. I would highly recommend you read this before going to see the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet. I really want to. I can't wait. The next book that I read in the month of March is The Things We Do for Love by Kristin Hannah. I have owned this book for a long time. I love Kristin Hannah. My favorite book by her is Firefly Lane. So this is about a woman named Angie who's been trying to conceive for years with her husband, and she has failed multiple times. She tried adopting a child. It did not end up working out. And then they finally get pregnant. They lose the baby and they get divorced. It is also about a 17-year-old girl named Lauren who his mother had her at the age of 16 and basically lives a pretty rotten lifestyle because the mom is supposed to be going to work but doesn't. She just drinks all day and smokes all day and sleeps around. And Lauren does not want to grow up like her mom. She works very hard in school to hopefully get scholarships to colleges one day. And Lauren then loses her job at Rite Aid, which was basically paying for her rent since her mom did not work. Well, not that she didn't work, she just didn't attend her job. And so she starts looking for a new job and found a job at Angie's family's restaurant basically at the same time that Angie comes home after her and her husband get divorced. Whew. Kind of a coinky dink. And Lauren ends up getting pregnant, and it kind of goes on from there. I gave this a 3-star. Mostly because I did not find this book to be... Actually, was it 3-star or 2-star? It was either a 2 or 3-star. I want to say 3-star though, because the actual writing itself was very good, and the characters were not one-dimensional. There was plenty about the characters, and the story was very... I don't know how to put it. It's just... yeah. But I found it to be a little unrealistic. If you have not read this book yet and you want to read it, I would recommend skipping ahead to where you don't see this book anymore, because I am about to spoil some things for you. Basically, when Angie gets divorced, she goes home, starts running the restaurant. Lauren starts working at the restaurant, finds out she's pregnant. When she finds out she's pregnant, her mom runs away with her boyfriend, and Lauren gets kicked out of the house, and then Angie, her boss, takes her in and is like, you can live with me. Haha. And then finds out she's pregnant and is like, oh yeah, because I haven't been trying to conceive for years and I lost my baby. I'm totally still going to let you live with me. And then Angie's husband starts coming back to her, and they start falling in love again, and they get back together and get remarried. And then Lauren promises Angie her baby because she wants to be able to go to college, and her boyfriend don't think it's a good idea to try to raise this child. And then she doesn't give her the baby. She runs off. And then at the end, Angie's just worried about her, and she takes her back and says, oh, Lauren, you were my child and your child is my grandchild. What? None of that was realistic in any sense of the world to me, because if that was me, I'd be so angry. I don't know. I think the writing was great, and I thought the story was great up until a certain point, but then things just started not making sense and was not really all that realistic. So, I don't know. Was not a huge fan. Another book I read in the month of March was Perfect Match by Jodi Picoult. This is about Nina Frost, her husband, Caleb, and her son, Nathaniel. Nina Frost is a prosecutor for rapists and sexual assault victims. So basically, she puts all of the rapists in jail. And her world gets turned upside down when she finds out her son, Nathaniel, has been raped. And basically, she goes through extreme lengths to make sure that the person that did the deed will never harm again. Basically, I don't think this is much of a I'm not calling it a spoiler because it's literally in the prologue. So you read a scene before you actually get to the scene in the book, and I think it's just to entice you in. So I don't really call it a spoiler, but she literally kills the person who has been accused of raping her son. in the courtroom, in front of the judge, in front of everyone. And then the story basically goes from there, and how she's getting prosecuted for the killing of the man that raped him, and how the court goes, and how she may or may not get away with it. I actually really, really liked this book. I want to say I gave it 4 out of 5 as well. I can't really remember at the top of my head, but I thought this was really good. I think it really went into the adolescent side of being raped and how an adolescent would respond to that. At the same time, I think it really went deep into how a parent would think about what happened. Like, I don't know how I would feel personally if my child was raped, but I could see how what happens in this book would go through your head. Like, oh my goodness, who did this? Why would they hurt my child? So on and so forth. And I really actually recommend this book very dearly. If you are a rape or sexual assault survivor, I do think that this may be a hard read for you, but it is such a good book, and I loved the ending, and I do highly, highly recommend this to anyone. Back here is my TBR, and this was my old TBR, in case you didn't figure that out. The next book I read in the month of March is The Shining by Stephen King. I gave this a 3.5. It was not quite a 3, not quite a 4. I thought the writing was magnificent. I thought each character had great background story to them. I thought that the story itself really led to what happens at the end. But I will say the first, however many chapters were very kind of slow. And not a lot. Granted, this was my first Stephen King novel, but I was expecting more horror from it. It was very slow, and yes, the Overlook Hotel was kind of creepy, just in the aspect of being creepy, but the first really horror thing was when the son went into room 217, and from when he entered room 217 till the last couple of chapters, there again wasn't that much horror, and then all of a sudden all the stressfulness and all the horror is in the last couple of chapters, and then the absolute frickin' ending in the epilogue just kind of sucked. So it's just, so basically the story is about Jack and Wendy and their son Danny, and Jack is an alcoholic, and because of that he went sober for a little while, but he can't control his temper and ended up losing his job as a teacher, and now he's trying to find a way to support his family and gets a job as the attendant to the Overlook Hotel for the wintertime. The Overlook Hotel closes in the wintertime because of the snow where the Overlook is located. It just blocks off all the streets, and there's just no way to get to and from the Overlook Hotel. The Overlook Hotel, come to find out, has a very, very sketchy backstory, and because of that, a lot of strange things start to happen. But I don't know. I was kind of disappointed for it being my first Stephen King novel. I wish I went in another direction for my first Stephen King, because I did not find it at all that stressful until the very, very end, and then it was all the stressfulness at once, and then the absolute ending in the epilogue was kind of disappointed. But I was recently told by my friend Chris that there is actually a sequel to The Shining called Dr. Sleep. I don't know if that's true or not, but if so, I hope that Dr. Sleep can kind of get more into the story and that it will be more stressful. the last book I read in March is Wringer by Jerry Spinelli. I read this back in, was it elementary school or middle school? I don't remember. I want to say elementary school. I want to say I read it in 5th grade. And I could not remember anything about this. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to reread it. I got it when my sister-in-law moved out of my in-laws' house. She left a good amount of books there. I picked out a couple that I thought I would like. And I remembered reading this and was like, you know what? I want to reread that. And that's what I did. Basically, it is about this boy named Palmer who, in his town, there is a family fest every year. And at the family fest, people pay to shoot pigeons. And the 10-year-old boys go around and wring the necks of the pigeons that are injured and suffering. And basically, Palmer does not want to be a ringer and is dreading his 10th birthday. Then one day, a pigeon actually ends up at his window and he takes the pigeon in as a pet. And then we go through the stressfulness of having a pet pigeon in a town that kills pigeons. So I actually really liked this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely meant for a children's read. Of course, it did get the 1998 Newbery Honor Award. And it even says on the back ages 8 to 12. But it was still a really good classic read for me. It was not hard to follow along with. And it was just really, really good. So I would highly recommend this, even if you're an adult of my age. But it was so good. I could definitely see myself rereading this in the future. It was that good. So those are all the books that I read in March. I hope this, guys, gave you some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of way to kind of see where I'm going to go in my booktube career. But yeah, it was just really, really good. I want to say I had a really good reading month, and as I have told you guys before, my Goodreads goal for the year is to read 30 books, which meant I needed to read at least 3 books in a month, and to read 7 books in a month, I think that's really good, especially after a 10-year hiatus. I do want to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books in the month of April. We'll see if it happens. I did not end up reading Knights of Rodanthe by Nicholas Sparks or Coming Out by Danielle Steele, but I didn't want to put them right into the next TBR because I'm wondering if me taking so long on some of the books I was reading was partially because I didn't want to get to these. I don't know. We'll find out, but they will be in a future TBR. And I'm really excited to see what's next on my reading journey, especially with all these fantastic books I have waiting for me. But that's all for this video. I can't wait to see you guys again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!